What is a trail bike? And how do two trail bikes differ? Well, today I have two 130mm 29-inch wheeled trail bikes that are so very, very different. But how do two bikes, seemingly separated at birth, grow up worlds apart? So the first bike. This is my Nukeproof Reactor. It's a bike I've had since about December, and I've ridden a massive variety of trails on it. It's 130mm of rear travel paired to 140mm fork, but it's similarly capable to some 150, 160 bikes I've ridden. It's for that reason I often refer to it as the Enduro Rider's trail bike, because although it's a very ample pedaler, it's definitely suited to somebody who wants to push it on the downhill runs. So if this is the Enduro Rider's trail bike, why wouldn't they just get an Enduro bike? Well, it's because a bike like this, that mid-travel 29er, has capabilities that really would surprise many, but it's still agile and responsive. And that really comes into its own on flatter or more undulating terrain. I think at the core of the Reactor, if you'll excuse the pun, is it's just good, no-nonsense fun. It's the hot hatchback, similar in its capabilities to its longer travel siblings, but seemingly always on the front foot, willing you to go forward. Now that really comes in handy when you look at the areas enduro bikes have traditionally struggled, which is longer climbs and flatter trails. An aggressive trail bike like this can really liven up the trail compared to a long travel brute. See, bikes that have a huge amounts of trail can often smother the life out of the trail, and all the nuances and subtleties kind of go out the window. Riding a 170mm travel bike on a trail that doesn't demand it can often be a bit like trying to text in oven gloves. It's just no good. So who is the Reactor for? Well, if you like riding steep, techie trails, you want to ride 1,000 meters of vert on the Saturday, and then maybe some bike park laps on the Sunday, a bike like the Reactor may well be for you. If you like riding trails that demand aggressively treaded tires, but not huge quantities of travel, that should be right up your street. But what about the Neuron? Well, this is a bike I haven't had for so long, admittedly, but I do feel quite well acquainted now. So this bike uses 130mm at the back, paired to a 130 fork, although I have heard of people running 140 forks for the bike. Hold your horses. So we got caught in some... So we thought, what are the chances? This couldn't possibly happen again. Let's postpone the shoot for a few days. And unbelievably, it's rained again in England. But that can't stop the party. It's time for the Canyon Neuron say. So here is the Canyon Neuron. It too, like the Reactor, is a 130mm 29er. But unlike the Reactor, it has just 130mm travel on the fork, although I have heard of people upping the travel to 140. So what is this bike for? Well, to me, it's the XC Rider's trail bike. It's fast, agile and manoeuvrable. It's far more versatile than a traditional XC race bike, and it does that by having larger volume tyres, a dropper seat post and a bit more travel. All of that, and it is still staggeringly light. It's kind of like an XC bike for those that have no interest in smuggling illicit budgies. It is very capable, but I think it has more of a classic approach to riding. Bikes like this are great on big days, and that's because it's very efficient to pedal and its handling comes second nature. Not everybody does want something that is long, low and slack. And it's also worth noting, whilst not trying to sound like an old man, it is remarkably comfortable. You see, XC bikes typically can be something of a springboard, but with just 30mm more travel, it really manages to negate that while staying very efficient in terms of pedaling. It really is the difference between a 4-poster bed and the IKEA futon of death. So this kind of bike is for the person that wants to ride the trail centre on a Saturday and maybe do an XC race on the Sunday or an off-road sportif. It's kind of for those people that love tech, single track and bridleways in equal measure. If we return to the metaphor from earlier on of the Reactor being racing slicks on a roll cage, then this is a powerful saloon car. Just fantastic on the open road. It's not leery, and that's the charm of it. An accusation often levelled at true XC bikes is that they're one-trick ponies and not very versatile. A bike like this, with only 30mm more travel, gives you so much more confidence and security on techier trails, whilst not being laboured with excessive weight. This is XC in terms of weight, but not XC limited. And it's a great bike for those people that want to explore and don't want to be concerned they're going to find something on the trail that's going to overwhelm their lightweight XC rig. So who is this bike for? Well, it's just for people that love cycling, the great outdoors in all its glory, and getting outside on an adventure. For people that love going up and down, all of it. So how do you separate two seemingly quite similar types of bike? Well, a great place to start is the geometry. An aggressive trail bike has a longer reach, typically 470 or 480mm. To balance out the long reach, it will often be quite a few degrees steeper in the seat tube angle, which helps keep the bike planted on climbs. All of that is coupled with an aggressive head angle between 65 and 66 degrees and a more enduro-focused cockpit, so short stem and a wide bar. Also, a bike like this often has a flip chip to fine-tune the geo to suit your needs. The lighter, more nimble trail bike typically has a shorter reach paired to an ever so slightly longer stem and narrower bar. It very much has its roots and origins in XC. In recent years, that's become something of a dirty word, but it's nonsense really. This style of bike will really suit some people because not everybody wants an aggressive bike. Mountain biking and trail biking in particular is such a wide spectrum. There are some people who want that long, low, stable geometry because there's such an emphasis on them for descending. Similarly, some people don't have that much of an interest and really just enjoy riding in the countryside on more tame trails. That kind of people, they're not really interested in hitting the jumps, steeps or ruts, and the only gap they heard of is the one next to WH Smith. They're very different, and that's okay. What else is there to signify the bike's intentions? Look at the tyres. How aggressive are they? Are they XC nimble or enduro aggressive? Do they have thicker casing or are they welterweight? This alone can paint a vivid picture. Now, here at GMBN, we're supported by Vittoria, but the tyres I've fitted are similar in their nature and intent to the originals. Also, look at the suspension. A piggyback shock often only means one thing. The Reactor, in other specs, comes with a Fox 36, which is a far burlier offering compared to the 34mm fork on the Canyon. Are there tabs on the bottom bracket shell for a chain device? Just look for anything that might signify gravity focused, and that will be the smoking gun as to the bike's intentions. You may also remember that I recently did a video fitting an angle adjust headset to the Reactor, whereas the integrated headset on the Neuron would not allow for this. The last but very important way to identify what a bike is meant for is what does the manufacturer say and what do they suggest? Well, this is what Nukeproof had to say about the Reactor. The Reactor is designed from the ground up to be the ultimate aggressive trail bike. It is at home on technical climbs, but happiest when thrashing the most technical trails you can point it at. Which sounds about right to me. Now, what do Canyon say about the Neuron? Long days on challenging terrain have never been more fun, thanks to its modern, comfort-focused geometry and excellent suspension setup. The Neuron CF9 just got even more versatile. On an after-work rip through the woods, a weekend trip to a flow trail, or a multi-day journey in the mountains, the Neuron CF9 is just waiting to take you on new adventures. Well, it's all there, isn't it? Sometimes bike companies are given a hard time for pushing a second agenda or speaking in riddles. They just tell the truth, and honestly, it often doesn't require reading between the lines too much. So, bottom line, how different are these two bikes? And as mountain bikers, should we welcome further subcategorization of our bikes? Well, I'd like to look over towards road cycling, because within road cycling you have aero bikes, climbing bikes and enduro bikes, but to the untrained eye, they all look very similar. To ride them, it becomes quickly apparent, and that is absolutely the case with these two. Honestly, blindfolded, you would be blown away by the difference, and they really both have their strengths and their suited needs. And thank you for joining this comparison. I've never known rain like this in the UK. It's very uncharacteristic of the area. Now guys, if you're going to like and subscribe, please do, because it really helps support the channel. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.